Okay, tonight's live stream. It's the 11th of October 2022, and we're at about 20 past 9 British Standard Time. So, see how this goes as always. I try different times, so yeah, see how it goes. Um, if anyone happens to be online, then please do participate. Um, yeah. Meanwhile, until someone does, I'm just going to multitask rather than just sitting around. So, hope you'll understand that. But as soon as people start participating, as always, I'll interact and go from there. I think this is one of the later live streams. It might be the latest actually that I've done, 20 past 9. So see how it goes. Wi-Fi's been good of late. It's been behaving itself, so that's something. There's no way to know when these live streams will work or not. What time is right. So as always, people, please just leave me messages. Hey, Carl, welcome. Yeah, I heard about that. I think it was in a place called Creslock, if I've got that right. That was shocking. I think it was what I expected it would be. I didn't think it would be terrorism, not in a small place like that. It appears it was a gas explosion, but yeah, it was an awful incident. I think 10 people were killed. Um, I vaguely remember about 8 years ago in the Republic of Ireland, there was something like that as well. It was at a traveller site, and there was some sort of, but on that occasion, it may have been arson. I can't. It was a while back. It was about the early 2010s, and again, about 10 people were killed. But certainly, this is rare. Hello, Alex. Hi there. I finally made it to your live stream. Yeah, welcome. And you're one of the first, so welcome. That's the thing with these live streams. I can never. It's difficult to have an exact time because it's hard to know when everyone would log in or not. Where are you, Alex? Are you in the UK or are you in another country? Because I've sometimes had a situation where I've had, for example, Canadian subscribers or Turkish subscribers, and they're in different time zones. Obviously, things like that. Even my UK subscribers, some people are night owls. Yeah, so you're in California, right? Way over in the Golden State. It's it's a cool thought for me to think of that. I'm interacting with someone on the other side of the world. Really, my uncle used to live in Santa Barbara. Actually, I don't know if he's still there. Haven't heard from him for a long time, but I think he probably is actually. Um, whereabouts are you, if you don't mind me asking? Just because I like my geography and gets gets the old brain cells working. Yeah, I mean, like I say, these live streams, I do them sporadically. There's not really any consistency to them. I'm not going to do them any particular time. But the Wi-Fi is okay at the moment, so it seems well. Um, yeah, Carl, I didn't ask because I knew you were in Belfast. So yeah. By the way, Carl, what are they saying about that explosion? Was it? I believe it was just ruled a gas explosion. Was there any more information? Some of your family and cousins live in the UK. Are you a British citizen, Alex, or are you have you married British people? I mean, not you personally, but uh, to rephrase the question, you mentioned you've some family in the UK. So, are you Anglo American, or is it just a case that people have married Britons? So, guys, let's see how this goes. It's thank you for coming along. Ideally, for a live stream, we need quite a few people to sort of get it rolling. But obviously, any questions are anything like that is great. And Italy as well. Yeah, I actually had Italian family. My uncle, by marriage, my uncle was from Sicily. Um, Unfortunately, that didn't work out. But I did speak to him at my grandmother's funeral 5 years ago. He has an Italian restaurant in Belfast. Um, my the city of my birth actually is where Carl lives now. Carl, you were born in Belfast, weren't you? Yeah, I mean, we hear of these things of like gas leaks in the past because safety standards weren't of the same level, but it still happens. There's been a number of actually incidents in England recently. There was a woman in Bedford died in a gas leak, although I think she actually was suicidal and it was an act of sabotage on her part. And there was another one somewhere in the south as well. Here in Sunderland, apparently there was an incident. Thankfully, no one died, but an entire house was like demolished and a lot of people were injured. In that case, it was actually a soldier suffering PTSD, a sailor, I should say. But it's still a selfish thing to do to take out a whole house, put other lives at risk. Um, but it also shows how that needs to be taken seriously and treated. I think the armed forces need to do what they can to provide support to people. We'll say you live in the UK. You're living, if I don't mind asking you. I'm in Sunderland in northeast England. It's not a particularly well-known city. It's near Newcastle upon Tyne, but it's an okay place. It's not the most cosmopolitan city. We have our share of poverty and crime, but we have good things as well. We have Europe's biggest air show. I've never actually made a video about Sunderland, and I hope to one day. But it's one of those places, that kind of gets it's seen on the sidelines. In fact, this week we just celebrated 30 years of being a city, and I'm not sure if people even recognize that much. But we have some good things. There's some interesting landmarks locally. There's some very rich history in the city. So yeah, Sunderland. I've lived here for 22 years now, but I was born in Belfast, Northern Ireland, like Carl. But I've lived in different places. I studied in the West Midlands near Birmingham, and I lived in China twice for work. Short term, 6 months each time, but I was effectively living there. So, how about you, Alex? What city are you in? What county? Because I know in California, I believe I'm right in saying Los Angeles County is the most populous county of the United States. I think Kings County in Brooklyn is also pretty populous. We have this fascination with cities and demographics, so I think some parts of Florida is going to be up there as well. What do you think about the difference and similar things about Belfast and Sunderland? Good question. Honestly, I lived in I was born in Belfast, and I lived in Belfast from 1990 to 1995. So I was pretty young at that time, from the ages of 5 to would have been 10 or 11. Um, I was born in the city, but even my remaining time in Northern Ireland wasn't in Belfast. I lived in Bushmills, which you probably know, Carl. It's well, it's world famous because of its whiskey. Not that wasn't great. I don't like rural life, especially in Northern Ireland. It can be quite parochial and nosy. Just yeah, preferred Belfast. I had some good memories from Belfast actually, but they are now quite far back because I was only a child at the time. Um, if I was to say some distinctive things I remember, I'm just mentioning this in order to contrast it to Sunderland. Um, of course, I remember some aspects of the Troubles. I remember soldiers on the street. But, as a child, you don't really process that because it's the norm. And I didn't know anything else. So I remember those grey personnel carriers that the British Army and the police used to use. Um, where I live was relatively safe in North Belfast near Cave Hill. I remember a little bit about my school. I remember my birthday parties. We used to have like sort of kids from my class would come around. We'd have a bit of a party in my garden, and my mum would do different novelty cakes each time. Of course, that's nothing to do with Belfast. It's just the memory I associate with that place. Sorry, Alex, you're in Santa Clara County, a Mountain View city. Santa Clara County, that's about sort of halfway up the state, isn't it? It's not as far north as San Francisco, but further north than LA, obviously. Have I got that right? Yeah, so anyway, getting back, I've got some good memories from Belfast. I live near Cave Hill and I've still got a scar on my knee. I remember I was going down that street with stabilizers and the stabilizers snapped off and I went into, of all things, a police vehicle. Thankfully, they were understanding, but I got badly, yeah, my knee was badly cut. Still have the scar from that. Um, I remember Jurassic Park. Actually, I was in Belfast in 1993, right when that came out, and there was a big thing at the time. I remember in the Ulster Museum they have a big model of a Tyrannosaurus skull, and there was this event where if you were 9 years plus, you could go to the museum and stay overnight. And my cousin got to go. She was a little bit older than me, but I couldn't, and I remember being jealous of her. But that was a great museum. It's funny, when people think of Northern Ireland, they often think of the Troubles, but there is so much more to it, and especially Belfast. It's a great city. Having said that, if I went to Belfast now, honestly, a lot will have changed. There's a lot of things I'd probably get lost. So I know Sunderland much better. Even though I always feel this connection to Belfast, it is the city of my birth. Really, I'm 37 and I lived there for 5 years. So honestly, I'm not that familiar with it. Although I know the history and I know it will always be sentimental for me. Whereas Sunderland, this is really my city. The difference, Belfast is bigger. Belfast has a population of about 260,000 within the city limits. That is, I'm not talking about the conurbation. Sunderland's a bit smaller, 180,000 within the city limits. Well, 300,000 if we're talking about the extended area. So Belfast, 700,000 in the conurbation. So Belfast is a bit bigger. The thing about Northern Ireland, of course, you'll know this, Carl, is that it's quite a rural place. Unlike England, it's only really Belfast. It's the only main city. Very sizable, but it's not that big. It's 100,000 people. So one gets a sense that when you're going into Belfast, you're going into the city. You don't get that with most English cities because, except the really main ones, because England is a pretty urban society. Over 50% of England is urban. So you don't really get that. I remember my dad used to get annoyed when my grandparents would say, "Oh, Sunderland, that's a suburb of Newcastle." It definitely isn't. I mean, Sunderland's quite a distinctive city in its own right. But most people here would consider it relatively small. It's not really. It's sizable. It's certainly not a small town, but it's with Belfast. You sense it's a capital. You have the city hall. You have it feels a lot more cosmopolitan than Sunderland in that sense. I'm sure there's a lot more I could say, but similarities. They both have a rich shipbuilding heritage, although Belfast was also a port. But yeah, they both have that maritime heritage. That's certainly something they have in common. They're both bombed in the war, but then a lot of places were, so I'm not sure if we could really say that's a similarity. What else? Um, Coal mining is something that isn't really in Northern Ireland. That was never really an industry over there. So that's one difference. This is coal mining country, whereas Belfast it was linen. So I'm sure there's other similarities that'll come to me. I don't think I'll like rural life as well. We'll just feel isolated, like living in the past. Yeah, it's also. I mean, it has its merits. It's good to visit. I think it's probably good for city children to get into the countryside sometimes just to see farm animals and see life outside the city. But yeah, living there, I don't think it's great for young people. It could be quite boring. And the other thing is, and I mentioned this about Northern Ireland, but honestly, it's probably true in England. It's probably true the world over. In small communities, people tend to be quite parochial. You hear this expression, close knit community, and it's seen as a positive thing. I don't think it always is because sometimes close knit communities can be narrow minded communities where they're hostile to outsiders for no other reason than simply being outsiders. Cities, you don't. This is not to say you don't have it in cities, but you have it to a lesser extent, definitely. Or I should say, it will be. to isolation. To visit, yes, but live, no. I agree, Carl. I don't think I could live in the country. If I was a wealthy man and I had a place in the city, I might have a retreat in the countryside, maybe. But only if it was used. I wouldn't want waste. I wouldn't want to think it was wasted. Um, but yeah, it's rural life has its merits. I remember there used to be children's programs I watched on television, like I think. Well, certainly I loved The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and that, of course, is about city children that go to the countryside and then find this magic land. Wurzel Gummidge way back in the day, things like that. So there is a certain appeal with the country, but yeah, definitely. My parents actually they now live in a rural area in southwest Scotland, and they want to come back to the city. And this surprised me because my mum always said she didn't really like cities. I asked her about this, and she said as they get older, it makes sense to be near hospitals and to be near amenities. That's something that is harder in the countryside. I don't know if you guys have seen Withnail and I with Richard E. Grant and Paul McGann. It's become a sort of cult film. It was made in the 80s, but set in the 60s. Don't know if you've seen that. If it doesn't ring a bell, it's about two struggling actors, and they're really nihilistic. One of them has severe anxiety, the other is very vain and very quite pompous. But it's a comedy drama film. It's quite unique. Welcome, Sloth. I'm 15 minutes behind, so need to watch on 2 times speed and catch up. Yeah, you haven't missed too much. I've been speaking about the differences between the two cities that I'm associated with: Belfast, where I was born, and Sunderland, where I've grown up. Um, and I'll say this about every British city. I think most British cities have a good mix of. In the last live stream, architecture came up. Well, one thing about British cities is they're not all, for example, I live in a Victorian townhouse here. Yet you get modern council estates, you get a range of architecture within cities, and I like that about cities in the UK that it's not all one big bland thing where it's all the same. There's quite a lot of variation. So some things in the news at the moment. Angela Lansbury's died apparently. She was 96. I remember her best from Bedknobs and Broomsticks, that great scene in the end, the fantasy Disney film. The great scene in the end where she's a witch, of course, and she resuscitates all these medieval knights to take on the German invasion of the Channel Islands. It's quite a unique piece of cinema. Have you caught a wind of Tulsi Gabbard leaving her party and her listed reasons behind it, some of which you'd find sympathy with? Calls out wokeness, others not so much warmongering. I didn't hear about that, but I'm not surprised. Bard's been railing against the Democrats for a long time now. In fact, to be honest, I thought she'd already left. I thought she was sort of an independent or something at the moment. To be honest, I don't give her much time of day. I don't have much respect for Tulsi Gabbard because the thing about wokeness, yeah, I mean I agree with that, but that's pretty easy to do now for anyone who's thinking. I mean, it's kind of it's like I've said GB News needs to show that it's more than just anti woke, because those of us who believe in common sense will see the problem inherent in woke ideology. But like you said, Sloth, her railing about warmongering. I don't know if she's just ignorant or if she's pitching to some unsavory forces or what it is. But if she actually thinks that Western support for Ukraine is warmongering and what Putin is doing is not, she's utterly deluded. The biggest issue I have with Tulsi Gabbard, I'll just mention this because you've brought it up, is the way she sort of uses her military service as an excuse. Because I understand she was in I think she was a Marine or something like that. Okay, so she served her country, but she loves to remind people of this, and she loves to say, "Oh, well, this proves my patriotism." But she has some quite concerning politics, and her little visit to Assad left a bad taste in my mouth because I think You cannot go to a murderous dictator and say you're doing it for diplomatic reasons, but then not meet the opposition. If she was really doing that in a diplomatic capacity, she would have met Assad's critics. But as far as I know, she didn't. Um, I think she. I mean, my problem with Tulsi Gabbard is her worldview could come straight out of an RT broadcast. Um, and she gets a lot of support. I remember when I made a video criticizing her. Sorry to go off on a tangent here, but I made a video about Tulsi Gabbard and I got bombarded with abuse by her supporters. Things like, "Oh, well, you've never served," as if that's got any relevance to the case in point, um, and things like that. And it was this idea that I think it's incredibly manipulative. It's like what Roger Waters came out with recently, manipulative in the sense of people who pretend to be all about pacifism and all about peace, but actually supporting a warmongering dictator like Putin, or if not outright supporting him, certainly downplaying what he's doing. I think it's very disingenuous. I have a big problem with it. So that's why I don't have much time for someone like Tulsi Gabbard, and there's others. She's not the only one. Kim Iverson of The Hill is another. You know, she claims to be an independent journalist, but she was actually parroting Kremlin propaganda and saying, "Oh, I'm just doing my job as a journalist." Yet she was endorsing it. Um, so I really have no respect for people who claim to be assuming a pacifist position or assuming a diplomatic position when all they're doing is attacking the West and serving as apologists for the likes of Putin. It actually makes me sick, to be quite honest. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a whole lecture there, but it just, I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that she'd left the Democrats, but if I were them, I'd say good riddance. Um, Having said that, it's a bit like the British Labour Party. They really, really need to distance themselves from this woke nonsense. Because I think actually, if the Democrats get their act together, you know, if they just focus on day to day issues, if they just focus on, as we would say here, bread and butter issues, they could actually be onto something and they could maybe attract moderates. But I think some of the far left factions within the Democrats are very off putting to moderates. That is, people who want to totally dismantle the police, um, the racist components of Black Lives Matter, things like that. I think it's off putting. And yeah, the usage of critical race theory. I made a video recently on Oberlin College in, I believe it was Ohio, and the disgraceful way they treated that bakery. Um, Now, I'm not saying Joe Biden should personally intervene in every single case, but he is heading a party who has very much endorsed this ideology. So he needs to, make it clear that he is on the side of common sense, and he hasn't always done that, or he's been slow to at times. I mean, when the rioting was going on over the George Floyd thing, Biden did condemn the looting and the criminality, but he took his time to do it. Anyway, that's my little off rail. I think in I wonder, is there a difference between Europe and North America, because in Britain we have plenty of Putin apologists, but they tend to be on the fringes. In America, they seem to be more mainstream because you have Tulsi Gabbard, you have, and I'll call her that as long until she proves otherwise, until she just outright condemns the invasion, which she's failed to do so far. Then you get, the likes of Tucker Carlson. The interesting thing about Putin apologists is they straddle far left and far right. It's not one domain or the other, because you have the likes of the Corbynite faction of Labour and traditional socialists and so on, who will serve as apologists for Russia, not because they particularly like Putin, but because they're anti NATO. But then you'll also get the hard right who endorse Putin because they think he's some sort of answer to the Western culture wars. This is breathtakingly stupid, in my opinion. What are my thoughts about Brexit? Alex, before I answer that, can you answer my question? You might have missed it. Are you British or American? I know you live in California. Sorry, I missed that. I'm just curious because it might be, if you're American, it could be interesting to see what an American perspective is on that. Um, I did ask, but sorry, I might have missed your answer. But as you're thinking of your answer, my thoughts on Brexit. Well, basically, I voted Remain, um, but that wasn't from a sort of that's great, Sloth. I hope I'm making for good. Um, I'm just picturing that. Watch where you're going. Don't let me distract you and walk into a lamppost or something. I'm sure you won't. Um, my thoughts on Brexit. Yeah, I voted Remain, but that wasn't sort of because I'm a real Europhile. Honestly, it wasn't an easy decision. I voted Remain because I thought, well, the EU is flawed. There's things that definitely need to improve, but there's simply too many question marks and too much risk from leaving. Do I feel vindicated? Yes and no. I should say Sunderland, my city, was the very first place to announce the results in the UK. So for about 5 minutes, we were actually featured on CNN. I remember when they were doing the coverage of that. Sunderland went for leave. Uh, I would say this, in the last 6 years, Brexit has certainly not been the towering success that Brexiteers were making it out to be. They were saying it will be, we'll get back our freedom, everything will be great. Well, that's very questionable. At the same time, though, some real Remain people were, really dogmatic Remain people were implying it would be, we'd fall over the edge, it would be terrible, it would be dystopian. I think both ideas have fallen flat. One thing I do dislike about Brexit is ah so you're a citizen of the US, UK, and Italy. Cool. Thanks for. I just asked because sometimes that could be an interesting perspective when you have different backgrounds. You could have different insights, perhaps. Um, but yeah, the thing I dislike most about Brexit is not necessarily that we left the European Union. I've got Remain friends, and they were devastated. They were, getting Irish citizenship and so on just to get an EU passport, which I think was a bit over the top. Um, but I would say I think it's very sad how divisive it's been. That's why I don't really like. I rarely talk about it in my videos. It's not because I don't think it's important. It obviously is, but I just find it a very divisive subject and very depressing because you get this situation where I think it's comical almost in Tory ranks, where you get this thing about who is a real Brexiteer and who's not. The Tories are almost religious about this. They're very, very dogmatic and very and I do think that Theresa May was given a very hard time because they turned against her because she was a Remain MP, but I think as Prime Minister she tried her level best. And what I didn't like about the Brexiteers is they were sniping away at her and saying she's a traitor, and it got quite vitriolic at points. And I think she was just trying her best to deliver. Boris obviously delivered, but his premiership, in my view, has been tainted by his his corruption. Stevie Walsh, here we go. Here we go. I'll come back to Stevie and his little games in a minute. But anyway, yeah, to continue my point about Brexit, I think it's really not something that I would like the dust to settle. There are important things. There's the Northern Ireland Protocol. There's other things, but I think that yeah, it's best to let the dust settle on this because I think Labour, I think Starmer's taking the right approach of saying let's make Brexit work. Let's take the opportunities from it. I think it'd be wrong to call another referendum right now because as we've seen from Scotland, as we've seen. I just think referendums have proven to be divisive. So if there is to be another referendum, it shouldn't be for some time. But Brexiteers have to stop acting so dogmatic and so like, unless you agree with us, you're a traitor. Um, of course, it works both ways. You get some Europhiles who act like anyone who voted Brexit is a little Englander. Both stereotypes are wrong and unhelpful. Okay, I have the phone in my pocket. I'm listening to audio only. I have a lot of data on my phone. Have you heard any news about the laws legislation on the UK? laws legislation. I mean, we have updated legislation often. Sorry, I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. Just a quick word on Stevie because I suspect he's just trolling. I don't know what you mean by doxing that innocent girl. Firstly, you're very ignorant about the situation, but I'm not doxing anyone because if I was, the whole point about doxing is to try and troll someone and to shame them and to name them. I've never named her. In my recent video, if this is what you're referring to, I was talking about how I was feeling. Now, I've made it very clear on this channel that I try to set an example for other young men to talk about mental health. Now, if you're going to disparage that, if you're going to say that's illegitimate, then that's sad. That's a sad statement of your attitude. I haven't doxed anyone. Um, but in terms of this innocent girl, well, she has ghosted me. That's not very innocent. And if you weren't so ignorant about the subject and you actually bothered to do your homework and found out what ghosting means, then you would find that it's her behavior that's unreasonable. But I'm not interested in having a little like, oh, I want to shame her online. That's never been what I've been about. Rather, my issue here is about trying to get people informed about what online dating can involve. If I was interested in some sort of vindictive revenge or something like that, I'd have other ways to do it. But Stevie, once again, you claimed last time you were sorry, but you're just proving that you're a troll. You're just proving that you're a pathetic little troll. And it might actually mean something if you actually knew what the hell you were talking about, but you're ignorant. You don't know what you're talking about. And gentlemen, I assume that he's talking about my last video. Now, I invite anyone to go to that video and agree with Stevie that I was doxing this girl. I haven't named her. I haven't shown any pictures of her. Um, I haven't said anything other than very basic details that are vague enough to not mean anything. So that's it. I have to cite those details, otherwise it wouldn't have any context. It wouldn't. I can't just say this girl's giving me a hard time and then say nothing else. But it's not even about giving someone a hard time. Ghosting is a very real problem. And by the way, Stevie, given that you're such a feminist, I would say a white knight, but given that you're such a little feminist, how about guys that ghost girls? Would you criticize them? And if so, why the double standards? And why are you being silent? Why don't you come out with another smart arse comment? Because you're full of it. You're full of it. And you don't know what you're talking about. I'll give Stevie a chance to compose a real argument. Meanwhile, in one of the singles groups I'm on Facebook, local area based, a lot of folks got riled up over a movie. Ah, what was the movie? What happened there? That's interesting. So, was this like they were discussing the movie and they disagreed with its plots or its premise or Little Mermaid? Ah, okay. Yeah, I guess that's a controversy over the fact that black actresses. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I would say, I mean, the thing about casting when it comes to historic roles, in the UK, we had a black actress play the Queen Consort Anne Boleyn, and that understandably caused controversy because Anne Boleyn was not black. It would be like getting a white actress to play Harriet Tubman. But I think you can have a little bit more flexibility with fictional roles. You do not respond to my last comment as it is indefensible and you know it. Which last comment, Stevie? I'm responding to the comments that are coming through. I was disappointed you soft dox that innocent girl yet again. Seems you have learned nothing. That's what I've responded to. That's your other comment. So what are you talking about? What are you talking about? By the way, I've put the timing on so that there's 60 seconds between comments. So maybe that's just YouTube, you know, because otherwise the system would, I don't know, crash or something. But I've responded to your ignorant comment. Stevie, you're do you not realize how pathetic you're coming across? You're a faceless individual. You're coming to me, you're calling me names, you're trying to smear me, you're failing miserably. You're failing miserably because you have no basis to your claims. Everything that you are citing as evidence is nothing of the sort. Because I keep coming back and I keep showing why it's not what you say it is. So the video you claim I'm doxing this girl, she doxed you because, in your own words, you were head over heels for her. Clearly, that incel energy would have come out, and she would probably have got scared, and you were hard to get rid of. Um, right. If you're referring to this little incel subgroup that we've heard about, those guys are misogynists. You know, they're troubled young men who blame women for their problems. Now, I've had some successful relationships. I'm not someone who is bitter towards women. Yeah, I've had a few problems, but ghosted, I mean, you don't know what you're talking about. You're ignorant, Stevie. You're a very ignorant person, and you're full of shit. Sorry for the language, gents. But my own little stalker here, Stevie, he seems to have a fixation with me. Um, I don't even know where to start with this one. I'm not going to recite the entire video again because I got into a lot of details there. But there was an incident I spoke about early. I had two experiences with online dating. By the way, I met a lot of people via online dating, and Stevie will, of course, disregard this, but I've made some good friends from that. Women that I've got very good relations with, you know, who respect me and I respect them, and it's all very great. Um, I don't know if Stevie, if you're jealous, maybe you're single and you're trying to, you know, magnify your issues. Let's talk about your love life. Okay, let's see if you're enough of a man to actually come out with your love life. And, you know, you're attacking me. Are you happily married? Do you have a girlfriend? Tell the truth. You know, just say, oh, yes, I am. I will read as BS. Um, she talks to you because, in your own words, or she ghosted you because, in your own words, you were head over heels for her. Yeah, we were into each other, but it was mutual. It was mutual. By the way, this isn't answering to you or justifying anything to you. It's just to set the record straight because you're a liar and you're also a card. But basically, we were into each other. There was chemistry both ways. It happens. I don't know if you've ever online dated, Stevie, or maybe you're going to attack everyone who is online dated, which is literally millions of men and women across the world. Are you going to be so short sighted that you're going to just attack everyone who's been into online dating? Because all I have done is echo experiences a lot of people have had. Yeah, I was into her. I don't deny that. So what? That's no evidence of anything. Um, the thing is, Stevie, you're a thoroughly ignorant person. You're a thoroughly ignorant person. You don't know what ghosting involves. You seem to think it's like this, you know, this is where your ignorance lies. You seem to think it's a case of, I can't take no for an answer. But she never rejected me. That's the point. She never rejected me. As for the first case, yeah, that didn't work out, and it was very hard. It was very hard because I thought it was a mutual feeling, but that was a different situation. What I've been talking about recently is this ghosting experience, and that's the second situation I'm talking about. But you know, Stevie, you're a despicable card. You really are a pretty loathsome individual because you come to this channel, you attack me. Do you admit that you're a card, Stevie? Do you admit that you're a card? Because I tell you something, if you keep up this behavior, I'll be pretty tempted to make a video specially dedicated to you and your despicable behavior. Do you want me to go down that path? Because I'll do it. I will do it. If you insist on attacking me, I'll fight back. Yeah, that shut you up. You see, the problem here is you're white knight and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Yeah, you're probably right, Sloth. It's tempting, though. It's tempting. But you know, Stevie, I actually thought you had changed your attitude. You knew you talk about me learning nothing. You're the one that has learnt nothing, buddy. You're the one that's learnt nothing. Because you insist on trolling my channel. You've got this weird fixation on me. You know, if you have an issue with misogynist men, go to one of the actual incel groups. Give them a hard time. They're the ones you need to be focusing on. Those guys are dangerous. Hell, I think they bother me. But you're so ignorant to tie me in with them. That is irrelevant. But certainly not what would not whine about being ignored by a girl on for this. It's not whining, it's talking about issues that many people face. I mean, here's where you're so stupid. Look at YouTube, type in the word ghosting. you will find videos with thousands and thousands of views. So clearly, there is a basis for this subject to be spoken about in the public domain. All I'm doing is talking about my experience. How is this any different than someone coming on a video and talking about their experience of adultery or cheating or whatever the case may be? It happens all the time. The fact that you think there's something unusual about it shows you must have a very sheltered life. Really. The fact that you think a guy talking about his experience on a dating site, but not, violating anyone's privacy, which I haven't done. If you're going to make that false accusation, then, just shows what sort of person you are. Um, my goodness, Stevie, you're full of shit. Still not answered my question about getting your followers to get on that poor girl. When have I ever done anything of the sort? That's insane. Subscribers might agree with me or disagree with me. I've never encouraged people. That's insane. And that is a barefaced lie. I'd say barefaced, but you're a faceless card, aren't you, Stevie boy? You're a faceless little card. This guy is something else. I mean, really, people, he keeps coming to my channel, making false accusations against me, distorting what I've said. Well, this is it. I mean, I've given him chance after chance. The last time I apologized, which was insincere, um, give age, location, nationality, city, and job pretty clear. You know what you wanted to happen. Rubbish. I gave some basic information simply for context. The reason I done that was not to get people to get onto her, but to show that, this is what happens on dating sites. People gave out the impression that they're sincere. If I wanted people to get onto her, I would have just given her name, wouldn't I? I've got her name. I could have done that. So why the hell did I not do that? Seems obvious to me. If I wanted people to get onto her, I would have done that. You really are a POS, Stevie. You really are a despicable, unpleasant little shit because you're coming to my channel, and I apologize for the language, people, but I've had to put up with this stalker, this freak show, this loser coming to my channel, making false accusations against me. I don't need to put up with this crap. I do these live streams, and I'm sorry, I know other people have been. You wouldn't be that obvious, so I'd be more. Yeah, well, this is his last run. He's getting blocked after this. Because, but since we're on the subject, so that it's not just hot air, I want to open the Ask Others here. Alex, Sloth, Carl, you guys have been following my channel for a while. Hand on heart, do you think there's any truth in what this guy is saying? Do you think I'm wrong in how I go about this? Because if there's a consensus on it, here's the deal, Stevie. If you're right, okay, and I've been unreasonable in how I've went about things, and there's a consensus on it because I'm a fair man, and other people say that, then I'll concede, yeah, maybe I was wrong to do that. I'll concede that point. No, I don't think so. So, Alex, Sloth, let's see, who else do we have? Um, Alex and Sloth, those are the other. I'm just seeing if I could bring other people into this. I'm doing so because I don't want to be stubborn and arrogant and think I'm always right. If Stevie's not alone, if there are others who think this, then maybe I went about it the wrong way, and I'll happily delete those videos if there is a consensus that that's the wrong way to go about it. So, what do you think, guys? I think you come across as fair. Thank you, Carl. Now, to be clear here, I'm not just trying to vie for support here. I'm genuinely trying to see if there's a consensus. Looks like you. Right, well, that's a pretty homophobic remark, Stevie. Stevie's obviously a little stallion with the ladies. Stevie thinks highly of himself, even though he's a faceless card. The funny thing is, Stevie, you're one of us. You complain about this. You know what you're doing. You know what you just done. You know what you just done. To call me disingenuous, you've just used a well-known homophobic slur, and that yet you're saying that, my goodness me, you're something else. You're something else. The fact that it just happens to be male subscribers that are commenting in this particular live stream. My last live stream, I had a few women. So from the videos I've seen, you come across as a very decent man. Thank you, Carl. I appreciate that. As you see, I have to put up with people like Stevie. They're in a minority. They're just sad losers who try to get attention for themselves. I mean, this is the thing, Stevie. Why is your channel empty? I mean, it's you've got nothing there. And I'm not saying you have to have loads of videos to be relevant, but it does say a lot about you that you have no information, you've uploaded no videos of your own. Here's a question, a serious question. If you feel so strongly about, as you put it, misogynists and incels and so on, where's your videos where's your uploaded videos railing against us? Why are you scared to show your face? Is it because actually you don't really have conviction and you're just trolling? Because I show my face because I believe in standing up for what I believe in. Now, this point about this girl and me talking about, dating, the vast majority of my videos, I don't do that. If I had some sort of fixation or I was doxing women, as you so falsely claim, my channel would be absolutely dominated by that. I have, to put things in context, I have literally thousands of videos, thousands. And I think altogether there's about 6 or 7 on online dating, maybe 8. I don't know exactly, but it's minuscule, minuscule. So do you not think if I had some agenda to make this things difficult for this girl, I would find other ways to do it? Do you not think I would be naming her directly? I gave the basic details just to point out that people can give you this persona where they build up that it's sincere. That's what happens. That's how ghosting works. People give you the impression that they're sincere. And Stevie, if you do nothing else useful tonight other than trolling me, why don't you actually go out and find some information on ghosting? You're a very ignorant person. They're in the anti-feminist videos as well. In this, I've got a few videos I'm talking about feminism. This guy is something else. So Stevie, here's a serious question. If you have such contempt for me, if you think my channel is so negative or whatever you think of it, why do you spend so much time here? Why have you given up an hour of your time tonight to spout out nonsense? I'm not going to agree with you. My subscribers aren't going to agree with you. So why are you wasting your time? Really? You're a loser. It's that simple. I'm being productive with my time. I'm making videos that are actually about generating ideas, about debating issues, about talking about things that I feel need to be discussed. All you're doing is trolling, really. It's pathetic. You're a very pathetic character. I just picture you there, simmering away, you know, but one of us shows our face and the other doesn't. You're a card. I notice you still haven't addressed that point about your cardus. Just don't think leaving comments, is enough. It's not. I think if you really believe the rubbish that you spout out, you would be uploading videos about doxing, you'd be uploading videos about misogyny. It's not that hard to do. Most laptops have a built-in camera, so it's not that hard to do. Hell, I'll even show you how. I'll be generous enough to show you how. If it got you to leave me alone. I mean, it's pathetic. Anyway, I've given Stevie enough time. He's Stevie, this is it. You've got a deadline, right? This is your last chance. You either promise that you'll change this direction that you're on. That's, I know you're not going to, or you're blocked. That's it. Done tonight. Blocked. I'm giving you one last chance. One last chance right now, because I'll do it right now. I'm sick of you. I'm done with you. And I'm done with your false accusations. At this point, you still have a position to defend yourself. You still have a point where you can explain yourself. You still have a point to retract your false accusations and apologize to me. Show you're a man and apologize. If you can't do that, then you've had your chance. So I'll give you, let's see, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Retract your claims. You came close to it last time where you said, "Oh, sorry, I just said it once," and you were kind of backtracking a bit because I think you realized that you were going too far. Yeah, you're doing it again tonight. So you've got 2 minutes. Apologize and retract your false charges, or you're blocked for good. That's it. Because once you're blocked, you won't be able to defend yourself, and I'll have to explain why I've done it. Anyway, sorry guys. I did think there was a possibility this guy would come along because it was the evening the last time he came along as well. Right, I said it was a bit harsh, but that last little video had me throwing my slipper at the screen. Throwing your slipper at the screen. My goodness, I've got a mental picture there. You're a very strange character, Stevie. You really are. Um, well, are you going to retract your claims? Are you going to apologize for calling me a misogynist? Apologize for falsely saying that I'm stalking women? Because that's a very serious accusation. Actually, it's a criminal offense. So you're actually accusing me of a criminal offense. Last chance. Are you apologizing? Are you retracting any of that? Any of it? I'm not asking you to agree with me on everything. I'm just asking you to retract the most slanderous claims. Are you going to do so? Last chance. So let's see, we have report, remove, put in a timeout. Okay, you know what? I'm going to try that. May as well try the different tools. Stevie, I'm putting you on a timeout. See how this works. Okay, first time I've tried that. I want to try different things anyway from the technology. So Stevie's on a timeout. I assume that means for 300 seconds. That's like 3 minutes, I guess. 4 minutes. So Stevie, you can't say anything for 4 minutes, which is that's doesn't seem like much. Okay, guys, I'm sorry this got hijacked. I probably should have prepared for it, but Stevie done this before. I didn't. I don't mean my channel to be hijacked by people like that. The point about these live streams is to interact with subscribers. I do not expect an echo chamber. I don't expect people to blindly agree with me. I never have. But what Stevie has done shamefully has trolled me pretty relentlessly. And I've been very patient with him. But there comes a point when you have to say enough is enough. Because I think it's unfair on my other subscribers as well to have someone dominating and to spout out their nonsense. I've given Stevie a chance. When these 300 seconds are up, I'm sure he's listening right now. Stevie, just do the decent thing. Just be a man. Just accept that you were wrong to accuse me of misogyny, which very specifically means hatred of women and girls. And, show some humility because I defy you or anyone else to say that they've never had complications in a relationship. Anyone. All I have done in those videos, far from doxing anyone, all I have done is speak about my experience. The point of it is partly on mental health grounds because a lot of people use online dating, particularly since the pandemic. A lot of people have used online dating. All I have done, all I have done is try to discuss what I've went through in order to give other people some preparation, men and women. Women get doxed too. Women get ghosted too. So it's interesting that you're judging people who have been ghosted, yet you don't judge women who get ghosted. But you wouldn't, would you? Because you're a little white knight. You think that women can do no wrong. This is your ignorance. You think women can do no wrong. You think that women are these innocent little girls. This just shows either you're incredibly protected, you're living in a little bubble, or I don't know, maybe you think that you will appeal to women by being such a white knight, by attacking other guys. It doesn't work that way. Because when you go around making false accusations, it's I haven't made false accusations against you. I've said that I think you're a card because I sincerely believe you are a card, but I don't make false accusations against you about things that you've done or not done. I've said that you've trolled my channel. Ah, but I don't need this negativity. I make these live streams to try and give my subscribers an opportunity to have their say. I've been more than generous to you. I've given you plenty of chances. Those 300 seconds should be up pretty soon, I imagine. Um, but really, I've given you chance after chance after chance. Now you might go around and say, "Oh, this guy, he's a misogynist. He's this, that, and the other." But any honest person will look at what I've said and look at it from a very fair perspective. I've had plenty of women supporting me. You know, I've said to female friends exactly what I have been through, what I mentioned in the video, exactly. And they have basically agreed. They've said, yeah, she seems immature. She seems like she has indeed done that. Yeah, 300 seconds. I'm guessing that'll be up soon. First time I've done this, so I don't know how it works. But Stevie, even now I wanted to give you another chance. That's why I've just muted you. I haven't blocked you yet. So when this finishes, you'll have your chance. You'll have your chance. Specifically, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Number one, if you feel so strongly about these things, this is the first question. Seriously, why do you not upload videos and talk about these subjects yourself if you feel so strongly about them? That's the first question. Second question is why you think it's always the fault of men? Why are you so close minded that women can also be capable of manipulative and abusive behavior? That's the second question. And the third question is, I mean, you give a bad name to male feminists. The third question, I guess, is what's your agenda on this channel? What's your agenda on this channel? So number one, why? What was it? Why are you so? I've lost my trail of thought now. Um, yeah. Why do you think? Why are you so biased in terms of thinking women aren't capable of doing these things? Um, what's your agenda on my channel? And whatever the other question was, I've forgotten now. I'm done with you, to be quite honest. Carl, um, Sloth, and Alex, I apologize for this. If you guys have any questions or any follow up, please do. Like I said, if there was any truth at all in what this guy was saying, and other people were pointing this out, if I had a situation where people were saying, "Oh, this is not conducive behavior. You shouldn't do that, Nathan," I would stop. I would delete the video. Honestly, I would delete the video. Okay, I will stop calling you labels, but you really need to put yourself in the place of the woman. They deal with lots of creepy weirdos that can turn aggressive over the slightest rejection. Right, well, you're finally starting to talk in a semi reasonable way. Yeah, I absolutely put myself in the place of women in the sense of they have to deal with weirdos. I get that. Your mistake is in labeling me and putting me in the same bracket as those guys. The thing about this situation I've spoken about, and I've made this very clear, not that I owe you an explanation, but I've made it very clear that it was a mutual situation. Now, there's no excuse for ghosting someone. There isn't. Unless you're going to try and justify that because there might be weirdos out there. Well, if I was acting in a weird, creepy way, then she would be justified in ghosting me. But if you had any inclination of what our exchanges actually were, then you would realize how foolish and ignorant your accusations are. Because you would see it was very, very normal communication. It was good communication. It was flirtatious. It was fun, both ways. The problem is, I'm like a condemned man trying to vindicate myself, and I shouldn't have to because I know what the truth is. She knows what the truth is. She's done this for whatever reason, but it happens. If you think this phenomenon of ghosting is just in my head, look it up, Stevie. I urge you to look it up. And you'll find that what ghosters do is they just cut off out of the blue. The reason they do it isn't because they're creeped out. The reason they do it is for a range of reasons. They might lack self confidence, and that could be a big factor. Well, I've said to her, when I'm trying to find out what's going on with this, that I want to help her in this regard. I want to be there for her. I've been more than a gentleman. Um, that's it. Get over it and move on. Well, that once again, you're just demonstrating your ignorance. It's just her way of saying goodbye. Fuck you, Stevie. You don't know what you're talking about, really. You show how callous you are. You show how ignorant you are. And actually, this might be basically you've just I gave you a chance. I thought maybe this guy will finally learn, show some humility, and accept he's ignorant about the subject, but he isn't. Um, yeah, cheers, Carl. I'm done with dealing with this prick. He's absolutely ignorant. He knows nothing about ghosting. As for just move on, you should never ever be a counselor, Stevie, because if you have someone, doesn't matter if they're male or female, who's dealing with a situation like this, or they're dealing with depression, you tell them to move on. Welcome to the 21st century. Drag yourself into 2022. You can't just move on when someone's treated you this way. That is so ignorant when there's a close ended thing. And you are such a spineless, faceless little card. You tell me to man up? I've been through more than you have, you little shit. You're a card, Stevie. Quite frankly, you're just a card. And Stevie, maybe he's had a failed relationship. Maybe he's had a failed marriage and he needs to project this onto other people. But guys like Stevie are the scum of the earth. I'm going to just lay it on the line here. I don't really care. I think he's a piece of shit. He's attacking me. He's trying to, delegitimize what I've been through, disregarding the fact many people go through this, and now he's getting blocked. I'm going to block him and he won't be able to defend himself because he's a worm. You're a worm, Stevie. You're a worm. Let's see. What an absolute. Let's see. Move. Nah, just let's see. Oh, please, you said the worst thing was being rejected by a girl. Stevie, I'm not even going to try and vindicate myself because anything I say, you'll just try and weaponize it. You're a piece of shit. And I hope bad things happen in your personal life. I hope you fall flat on your face. And just remember, when you're going through some difficult situation, when you're going through some sort of, emotionally challenging situation, people are not robots. People have feelings, and it's got fuck all to do with manning up to express those feelings. We live in a society where young men are often told they need to express how they feel. They need to talk about mental health. All I'm doing is trying to break that stigma. You're part of the problem. You are part of the problem because you're trying to make other guys. You're trying to run down other guys simply for expressing their experiences. I've never expressed hatred of anyone. I've never stalked anyone. Um, you're just a worm. You're a loathsome little worm, aren't you, Stevie? And I could go to your channel and troll you, but you've got nothing there because you're a faceless card. But this is useful for me. This is useful for me because it gives me an idea of the sort of people who are out there, the people who, like you, who lack any sort of human empathy, who lack any sort of human understanding, who judge others when they're incredibly ignorant of the facts. They don't know anything about the subject at hand. You know nothing about ghosting. You know nothing about how this works. As for looking down on me because I'm single, well, there's millions of single people out there. Why don't you look down on all of them? Okay, I may make a video response to you and casual misogyny in general. No, you won't. You're a worm and you're a card. You're not going to do that because you're a faceless card. I'll be pleasantly surprised if you do, but you're an absolute card. You're not going to do it. Or you might do it just to have a go at me, which would actually equally show what a loser you are. Because you would do it for your personal vindictive agenda against me. If you feel so strongly about misogyny, Seriously, go and give misogynists a hard time. There's plenty of bad guys out there who treat women badly. Go and give them a hard time. You're just a worm. Yes, you did. Yes, you did, Stevie, you lying piece of shit. That's exactly what you done. That is exactly what you done. And it shows what a liar you are. It shows what a dishonest little worm that you are. Because not only do you look down on me for being single, you judge me for being single, you blame me for being single, even though you know nothing about my personality. Um, you know nothing about my values. You know nothing about what I've been through, other than the basic information that I've given. And I've always said in those videos it's basic. Um, I mean, you think I don't know what your situation is because you're scared to divulge that information, whether you're married or whether you've got a girlfriend or a boyfriend. Maybe you're in the closet. I don't know. Whatever the situation is, you feel fit to judge people for what they've been through. Ghosting happens. It's a real thing. It's not made up. And if you weren't so ignorant, you would actually go online and look at videos about this. Um, aggressive. I'm not aggressive, Stevie. I'm understandably defensive. You really are something else. Well, fuck you. You've had your chance. That's it. So I've hidden Stevie on his channel. I'm going to find a way to block him. I don't know if he can still hear this or not, but if he can, it's pretty despicable behavior he's engaged in. Pretty despicable. I'm sorry, guys. Probably that got to me more than it should. But it's very frustrating when you have a stranger making up false charges against you, distorting what you've said, and just putting labels on you. And it bothers me because I've never expected an echo chamber. I've never expected people to disagree with me, but I'm not a misogynist. I just think I might make a video actually in light of this, not necessarily about Stevie Walsh, but I'm going to bring this experience into it because I think it's important to. I warned him I would do this, and I'm going to. You know what? I'm going to end this live stream because he's hijacked it, and I do apologize, Carl, Sloth, Alex. Well, actually, Alex, you asked me a question, so out of politeness to you, I'll respond to that. What are your thoughts about male online communities? Well, actually, Stevie allured to this about the incel thing. Um, I think basically, I think there's a few reasons have come about. I think third wave feminism's part of it. But despite all the crap he was spouting out, he wasn't wrong about one thing. There is a problem with incel misogyny, and the problem is you do get these communities of young men, predominantly young men, who blame their lack of emotional attachment on women, and that's wrong. It's misogynistic. Um, what percentage of the male population are radicalized? Well, I guess it depends on what area. If you're talking about incel, like misogyny, it's very hard to say because radicalization can take many forms. I mean, there's Islamism, there's far right extremism. I would also say increasingly environmental extremism, in my opinion, but that's male and female. It's hard to say. I think it is a serious problem. I think it is a serious problem. We had that attack in Plymouth last year where the guy killed 6 people, mostly members of his own family, but he was part of the so-called incel community. But I just think it's thoroughly despicable what someone like Stevie does when you have someone like me who is trying to be open-minded and trying to say, look, we need to just discuss mental health issues. And then he's labeling me with them. I think that's thoroughly despicable. No wonder young men don't get to have an outlet when they have people like this smearing them falsely. King of America 97. Welcome. In regards to the incel culture, have you heard of the online manosphere? with things like the red pill, black pill, men going their own way, pickup artists. I've heard of a few of those things: red pill, men going their own way, that sort of thing. Um, I haven't heard that term manosphere. I guess that's a collective term for all of this. Do you know about Columbine? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that Michael Moore film, Bowling for Columbine, got into a lot of the background about that. The interesting thing about Columbine is it's been replicated many times over since. In 1999, it was a huge deal because actually gun violence in America was proportionally lower at the time, so it was a big deal. Steve Walsh, with his other fake account, not them, they're obvious people like you are more common and subtle than that. So, Steve, you were fuming because I blocked you, so you've just used your other little reserve account. Well done. You've just exposed what you are, a troll, a complete troll. And you've done my work for me. I wonder how many fake accounts you have. Well, let's see. Stevie Walsh, Steve Walsh, S. Walsh. I'll be sure to look out for all of these fake names. You know, you're wasting your time because I'm going to do the same thing with each one. This guy really is something else. So Stevie Walsh is now Steve Walsh, and he'll probably come back in a few minutes with yet another name. S. Walsh, Steve W. I don't know. He's a pathetic character. I mean, get the hint, Stevie. It's not working. You know, I'm just going to keep blocking you. Not because I want an echo chamber, but because you've had your chance. It's pathetic. Yeah, the thing about Columbine, I think that was more about. I don't think there was an incel thing there. I think it was more about I think they were in something called the trench coat mafia, as far as I remember, and there was a whole thing about they were bullied, and there's a lot of factors around that case, but it was kind of a landmark. Steve Empire. Yeah, this guy is something else. You know, most normal people would get a hint. They would get a hint when they're not wanted on a channel or when they're wasting their time and it's not. I'm just expecting him. It's almost comical at this point. I mean, yeah, I'm annoyed by the false accusations, but at the same time, I this guy is so pathetic. But you know, all of this subject, I might actually make a video about it, all joking aside, because A, to make my position crystal clear so that idiots like Stevie Walsh can't distort what I'm saying, and B, you know, just to um because it is an important subject. But you know, guys, if other people were saying that this is problematic, that they think I shouldn't be making videos about this or whatever, I would get the message and I would take it down because I don't want to be sending out something negative. I don't want to be, I have no interest in hurting this girl at all. I still have feelings for her. I don't want to hurt her. That's not what I want to do. All I have done is speak about my experience of ghosting. I haven't named this person and I'm not going to. I could. You know, if I was vindictive and if I was as misogynistic as Stevie was claiming, there's a lot of things I could do to, you know, ruin her life. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. You know, she's hurt me, but I think it's because she was overwhelmed. And she lacks confidence. And as much as she's hurt me, I also feel sorry for her. But it's definitely not the picture that he's painting. And it's so manipulative what he is doing. And I think the biggest mistake he's making is taking this gender angle with it because he seems to think that men don't ghost. You know, is he going to apply the same standard? You know, maybe girls acting creepy, so a man decides to ghost her, but it's nothing to do with that. The reason people ghost in most cases is because they're not mature enough to just have adult communication and to deal with differences and to just work it out. If she had said to me, "Look, I'm sorry, it's not working out," of course it would be. Well, that's a creative one, Stefano Walshio. No, you're not. No, you're not. Oh, Stefano Walshio for the Nobel Peace Prize. This guy is something else. And not predatory. We went over this. Stefan, you're appropriating what is that? That looks like a Mediterranean name. Stop appropriating, Stefano. My goodness, this guy is something else. I'm just standing up for women's rights. This is the thing. He obviously sees himself as a real, noble character. A real. I said kind of sarcastically he's white knighting, but he actually sees himself as a noble character. But Stefano, where's all the women on this thread backing you up and saying, "Oh, thank you, this guy's a misogynist. Thank you for taking him on." You're making a fool of yourself. You're making a complete fool of yourself. I genuinely find that rather amusing. Let's see what more. I'll give you point for creativity. I'll give you that. Feminists would agree. Yeah, I'm sure they would. But I happen to think they're not right about everything. And despite what you think, it's legitimate to criticize any movement or ideology. Movement, I should say. My goodness me. Hi, DMD. Hi, Centris. I have missed several of your live streams as I've been at work. Glad to have caught a bit of this one. Yeah. Well, it's been live wire. You may recall Stevie Walsh. He's now using several pseudonyms. Steve Walsh, Stefano Walshio. I'm sure he'll come up with another one. And all he's doing is showing himself to be a troll and a card because he. And hilariously, he seems to think he's a great defender of it. I genuinely find that amusing. He seems to think he's a defender of women's rights. Now, I'll tell you who are people who really deserve praise in that area, Stevie O. Not a pathetic little troll like you who goes on the channels and distorts what people are saying. I'll tell you who deserves respect. It's those courageous women in Iran, who are risking arrest, beatings for cutting off their hair to defy a misogynistic regime. It's interesting you've got nothing to say about that. If you're all about women's rights, Nadia Murad, the Yazidi activist who won the Nobel Peace Prize a few years ago, those are people who really deserve recognition and commendation. Um, and there's even male feminists I respect. There's guys in Pakistan, Afghanistan, who go out of their way to speak out against, what is mainstream opinions in those societies. Um, and yeah, I'm not saying there isn't misogynists in the Western world as well. There is this incel community. This is the ironic thing, Stevie has painted me to be something I'm not, and he's just barking up the wrong tree. He's attacking the wrong person. The ironic thing is, I might even agree with him if he would give me a chance to, but he's so busy slandering me and attributing false things to me because I've spoken of my experience of dating sites, which is not something I do all the time. He's distorted that to be that I'm trying to encourage vigilantism against the woman in question, which I've done nothing of the sort. All I've done is recount my experience. I haven't said anything about her other than basic information. I've said her nationality, her age, and the fact she's here in the UK, but I haven't said anything else. I said her profession, but the point about that was just to sort of demonstrate that people put up this thing to show that they're a sincere person. Now Stefano or Stevie is busy creating another fake profile, which I'm just going to block. He's wasting his time. He might, if he's lucky, get a word in. Ah, my goodness! But you know what, guys? Keep an eye out because I'm going to use some of this for my next video. Not just to shame Stevie. I mean, he's going to come into it as an anecdote because that's all he's worth. But about the issue about misogyny, about how this is rising, because actually it's an important subject, and it is happening. Actually, I think if there's one thing driving young men to these sort of sites, it's attitudes like Stevie's. And it is, I mean, let me be clear, there's absolutely no excuse for violence or misogynistic attitudes. Everyone is responsible for their own attitudes. But when young men are being told that they are, when you have attitudes like his, that stigmatizes being single, for example. Um, if you get young guys who are lonely, it might well push them to these sort of the dark corners of the internet. So actually, there is a serious side to this, which is that people like Stevie, um, all they do is think that they sort of look down on others and they say, "Oh, you're single, so you must be a misogynist." That's the most toxic attitude, and I've seen it elsewhere. You get these sort of alpha male circles because this is the ironic thing. Stevie probably thinks I'm of that persuasion. Actually, I've criticized them as well because you get this dynamic where you get like guys drinking a pub and they take a mickey out of the virgin in the group. What I'm trying to do here is break some stigmas. That's what I'm trying to do. I've always condemned misogyny, and I always will. Um, I guess he's ran out of usernames. Anyway, DMD, how are you? Coffee's cold now. You know what, guys? I know I shouldn't rise to the bait. I know what he's doing. But at the same time, it's useful to have an insight to people like this because you get a lot of trolls who come on the channels that give people a hard time, and it's kind of a useful case study, I guess, if nothing else. But probably that's my mistake. I probably do get more aggravated than I should. Now, he said I was being aggressive. There's a difference between being aggressive and being frustrated at false accusations. I think anyone who runs a channel and gets someone trolling them and coming out with false accusations would get frustrated because I'm not like a major channel. I have about 2,000 subscribers. But I'm not viral. I don't get millions of views. I don't get millions of followers. So if I did, someone like Stevie would be lost in the mess. But because he does, his comments do appear. It's hard to ignore. Unfortunately, yes. Good. Thanks. Just completed my MS degree. I'm working away now in the real world, rather different to the student world. I can imagine so. Yeah. What was your degree in, if you don't mind me asking? I see the coronation date's been scheduled for, I believe it's the 23rd of May. So that's slightly less than the Queen's coronation was a full year and 3 months, I believe, since the death of King George VI. So that's what I would have expected about May. It's probably about right. Because the king has to do it, far enough so that it doesn't look rushed, but close enough so that it's set in motion because he is the oldest monarch we've ever had. Okay, guys, I'm going to round this one up pretty soon because I do want to make that other video. I think this has been a useful insight into some of the things I want to talk about. This is a new one. Stifle al Walsk. That's really original. I don't go for you because you're single, but because the way you go about it. I am single, by the way. Um, well, the thing is, you've regularly brought up the single thing, so that's disingenuous. You have said I'm single because I'm a misogynist, and you've mocked my single status regularly. So stop being disingenuous. Take care, Carl. Have a good evening. Another Carl. The reason you don't have hundreds of thousands of followers and views is because you're not on the extremes. Yeah, that's interesting. Unfortunately, perhaps as a cynical statement of our time. Welcome, Carl. By the way, that attracts people. I don't go for you because so you admit that you go for me. That's interesting because of the way I go about it. I've explained repeatedly the way I go about it is simply about trying to break stigmas. That's all I've done. That is all I have done. And you're so ignorant about this subject. You're so staggeringly ignorant. Entitled attitude, rubbish. I don't have an entitled attitude. I don't. I've never. I'm going to address all of this crap in my next video because You're so full of it. But I know you're not the only one. There'll be a few other losers like you out there. By the way, my usage of insults to you, I think it's completely vindicated. All I'm doing is defending myself. I think it's completely legitimate, given your pretty pathetic behavior. Stevie Walsh, Stifel Walsh, all the other names he comes up. I've no doubt when I make that video, he'll come up with another name. But just for the sake, for his sake, I'll be quoting this experience, but it's not going to be about him. Rather, there's other issues I want to address, and I think it's an important subject. That's it. Okay, guys, I'm going to round this up tonight because I want to make that video. Um, why am I making it? Partly to address this trolling, but I don't want to give the impression he's important enough for one video, but rather to address some of the false, just some of the things that have been brought up on this thread, things like in the incel community, what I think of that, and so on. I can set the record straight, not for his sake, but just, I mean, I really think this guy needs to have a long, hard look at himself because he's attacking me under his false notion of what I am. He has convinced himself that I'm some sort of threat to women or I'm whatever. And is anyone who knows me, ask the women in my life, and they'll say what complete nonsense this is. If I was such a threat to women, Stevie, whatever you want to call yourself, why would I have actually more female friends than male friends? Do you not think if I was some sort of misogynist, I'd be very off putting to women? Yeah, I've had some difficulties with the world of online dating. You know what? So has a lot of people. So has a lot of people. So for you to single me out and say it's my problem just shows your ignorance. It shows that you're ignorant about the way people behave. The fact that you have the sexist attitude, that only men are capable of being manipulative, you're incredibly gullible. You have failed. You have failed to address that point. It's just anyway. So sorry, marine biology. Sorry, DMD. I think you did mention that before. Hope to make the next live stream from the beginning. Plus, agree with Carl. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be viral and have millions of views, but I think you're onto something there. I think there's a degree of dumbing down. I try to put some depth into my videos. I try to make these thoughtful, and I try to. Granted, this one isn't the best example because I've got into this testy exchange with my troll, but um, that's something I intend to do. By the way, guys, I may have to mute comments on the next video to stop this guy trolling me. I may have no choice. But then again, that gives him power that he doesn't deserve, and it would be unfair on other subscribers. Okay, look out for that video. It's going to be about the subject of about lots of things, about misogyny, about incels, about a lot of things. But I think it's very important because I think there's a lot of misconceptions going on. Okay. Thanks everyone, apart from the troll, for your participation. And yeah, until next time. But Stevie, Stevo, whatever you want to call yourself, I'm not a fool. I know it's you. So it's a waste of time using different pseudonyms because it's so obviously you. Just because you alter the letters a little bit doesn't mean anything. And it shows how pathetic that you are, that you would actually go to the point of where you're sitting on standby. Oh, I'll just use this one, I'll use that one. For all we know, you're probably stalking girls. How do we know that you're not giving girls a hard time? What a sad character you are. Okay, Carl, good evening. Good night, I should say. Good night to everyone, and thanks for your support. And look out for that next video. Thank you, folks.